So I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of French Ear Trumpet. My name's Colin. I live down in Charente, and this is Andy. He lives up in Brittany.
I do. Lovely, sunny. Well, no, actually, it's really windy at the moment. Brittany, yes.
So the idea of French Ear Trumpet is that between us, we've got a fair bit of experience as expats in France, and we'd just like to share a bit of knowledge, through our real life experiences, for those that are, thinking of moving to France, actually live in France, or it's their dream, and we just think it'd be interesting. And it's two fellas who like to chat, really.
That's it. In fact, we met over YouTube, so this is quite relevant. And we'll probably cover that subject, YouTube, because it seems like everybody's a YouTuber in France when they move over. But we met, we got along, and we decided to come together to make this, give some information out that people might find helpful. We've got our own channels individually. Mine's called AJ in France.
It's French Countryside Life. Make sure you subscribe to both of those channels.
I'm sure links will be in description. Anyway, might be helpful to say how we both ended up here. Just a brief, like a summary.
Sure.
You go first, I guess.
Okay. All right. So I was a chauffeur in London, and my wife and I had bought a house up in Normandy. It was a big old barn conversion in 2015, with the idea of using it as a holiday home, and when we retired to move to France permanently.
Yeah, in fact, there is some footage on your channel of your original house, the one that you're talking about in Normandy, isn't there?
Yeah. The first year of the channel is exclusively in Normandy.
So what year did you find the house originally then? So
2015.
That's right. Okay, 2015.
Yeah.
And you came to move here permanently 2019, did you say?
I think it was. Yeah. We spent about 6 weeks a year when it was a holiday home.
Yeah.
And things changed at work, and we decided to move out a bit early. So we lived up in Normandy for about a year and decided to move down to Charente to follow the sun.
Yeah, and the Charente is second or third sunniest department or area in France, I think, something like that. Only third, just behind Brittany. I think we're higher up there. No, not up to date. Only joking, not really.
Isn't Brittany the windsurfing capital of the world, isn't it? Sure.
Well, yeah, sure. And that's just in the streets as well. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now you're here permanently. Yeah. You're here permanently. Semi-retired or retired? Or how would you describe that? You reckon?
Yeah. Semi-retired. I work part time as a handyman gardener, and pretty much got it cracked, I think.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, really good. My journey was slightly different. I'm nowhere near retirement age, but back in 2010, I bought a holiday home here, much like everyone starts that really, or used to do, for not a lot of money, because it's amazing what you can actually buy out here when you start looking. We can buy a house with a roof for 20, 30 grand, and some departments are less expensive, shall we say, than others.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a huge variation in price according to the region.
And in fact we'll probably come on to that this time, because I ended up buying a second house as an investment, simply because I could see how much cheaper different departments are, and it wasn't always the case. Brittany used to be really cheap. It's gone up in value since they put in the high-speed rail links and all that sort of stuff to Paris. It's quite popular with everyone from Paris. So once I bought the holiday home in 2010, I was happy with that. I was fully employed back in the UK. And then my dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's, which for the first couple of years was okay. My parents were dealing with that, and I'd come over as often, once a month, to visit them. And then just before COVID, actually, in fact, the Christmas before, so that'd be 2019, I guess, into 2020. I came over just before Christmas, and it was obvious at that time that things weren't going particularly well, so I had to make a decision to leave England or and relocate to France, or go back and try and assist the best I could. But that was never going to work, really. So I came over full time at Christmas 2019 to look after my parents, and I've stayed ever since. But that was actually made easier by my next thing I'm going to mention, which is the B word, Brexit.
Well, funny enough, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So I remember the vote was announced. We was up in the house. Well, we was in the house up in Normandy when the Brexit vote was done. We was there on, we used to come over every 6 weeks or so.
So that must have been like 2016. Is that?
Yeah. Kind of lose track of the time, but yeah, and it had a real impact. I mean, we was very lucky that we was able to take advantage of the Brexit withdrawal agreement to get residency. So yeah, very lucky with that.
Yeah, people coming over now don't have that luxury. I mean, I took advantage at the same time. So I virtually didn't need any specific paperwork at all, really. Just to prove you got a house, that you were going to live there, and and then they just let you stay, and that was super handy. And compared to what you have to do now, I mean, that's a whole different episode, I guess. But so do you know how long ago that was as well? I was actually talking to a friend of mine, Colin Big Dave, because his name's Dave and he's pretty big. And you'll see him a lot on my channel, actually, doing stuff. His daughter was actually born after the Brexit referendum.
Oh, right.
So, and she's 7?
Right.
So I could sit there having a conversation to her, and that whole world before that is completely unknown to her. Yeah. And I just find that really odd. Kids growing up now don't realise what we could do before that. Just, I fancy living in France tomorrow, and that's exactly what we did. I'm sure there'd be lots of people around to say how wonderful it is. But anyway, it's not the topic of this episode.
Just to go back on a point there, I used to work with this fella. We used to call him Big Al because his name was Alan, and he was about 4'11".
See the irony in that. That's good.
Anyway.
Anyway, so then that's how I guess we ended up in France. You subsequently moved then to Charlotte, which you preferred, don't you, really?
Well, I guess it's like wherever you live, there's quite big social variations in areas of a country. So where I was, it was very, very, very rural. I think my closest neighbour was about a mile away, or 2.5 kilometres away. That is about right. And I'm still struggling with kilometres. I can do centimetres.
I remember that. Yeah, last time we were in your car, it's still in miles and miles per hour.
That's ridiculous.
So what are you doing? And the first time we did some work, and you pulled out a tape measure with inches on it.
I know.
Oh my God.
You
had a heart attack.
Yeah, so the house that we had up in Normandy was proper out in the sticks. And when we used to go into the local town, which was Les-le-Château, which was in between a town and a village.
Yeah.
And no one spoke any English at all, which is fine, you know, because we're in France. Not an issue, and it really helped, to be quite honest.
With learning French.
With learning French, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of forced into that, but that's fine. But there was almost to see British people there, that even though it was in Normandy, which is full of British expats, this particular area, for some reason, had hardly any. But coming down to Chiron, I mean, Dordogne is the next department, and that's known as Dordogneshire because there's so many. I think there's more British people than French people there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So because of that, there's a different sort of attitude here. I think the French people here, I guess they sort of realise how much investment comes from you know, from the UK market and the American market into this area, and it's just a bit more relaxed.
That's interesting. Yeah, I pick up on one thing there is the massive amount of Americans that I've seen on Facebook in local groups and that sort of stuff coming to France, and it tends to be more southern France, but you know, around Charente, also around Nice, Montpellier, places like that. The Americans seem to be coming in thick and fast now, infiltrating, I think is the term. Yeah, it's amazing how many are coming over.
I think I've got my subscribers.
But we're the same, aren't we? We can.
Oh yeah.
Same, so yeah, I mean, wherever you can make a better life for yourself, I mean, you know, why not? And so, so that's a good question, I guess. How do you think your life in France compares to the life you had in England?
Right. So
better,
that's
worse, or what?
Yeah. I mean, that's the key, actually, what you just said. Improving your life. So.
Because it's not just all about property prices, although that is a big thing, a really big thing.
Yeah, I think that you see people on TV, you know, and you talk to people, and they say we've been looking for a house for 8 years and we haven't found it. That's because it exists. That house doesn't exist, and life's full of compromises, and providing you're prepared to compromise to a certain degree, you know, you'll find a fantastic house here at a great price. And the other factor that comes into play is that the stereotype of the French is really a Parisian.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
So
an angry Parisian.
Yeah, angry French. Yeah.
So what?
The whole stereotype.
I get. Yeah, they are really nice. You're right, and I've been lucky to meet many French people, and I was actually invited around to a French Christmas dinner, which was really good. So there was a whole family there, extended family. Just after my dad passed away, so my brother's mother-in-law said, "Look, do you want to come to our house?" Because it was just me and my mum, and we went, and it was fantastic. You know, it's and they don't do it the same as we do it. It's all really, really strange, but really welcoming. It was great, and we'll talk about that, I guess, in another episode.
It's funny because we used to bring over mince pies when we used to come over to the other house up in Normandy. We used to bring around mince pies and dish them out to the people that we knew in the area.
Have they seen them before? Or
no. No. So mince pies, they're not actually
not made of mince.
No, they're not made of mince. They're like a short crust pastry with like a really sweet mixed spice and dried fruit inside. Really nice. Bit of sugar on top, lovely. And so the nearest neighbour was this old couple. They've got to be in their 80s, I guess. And Christmas Eve, because we'd only just got there the day before Christmas Eve, to get to their property, I could either go across the 2 fields or walk all the way around. So I decided to walk all the way around and up their drive. And, with me box of mince pies in my hand. And as I'm walking up the drive, I'm thinking, oh, there's a lot of cars here. Didn't think of it.
I wonder why.
Yeah, went up to their door and it was slightly ajar. Tapped on the door, nothing. Hello, bonjour, bonjour, nothing. So I opened the door slightly, stuck my head in, and of course it's right into their kitchen, isn't it? Stuck my head in, and there's about 20 people sitting around this great big farm table like this.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, I've got mince pies.
Well, what else can you do? You can't turn around at that point.
I've got mince pies.
I love it. How was that received?
Well, bless her. She came hobbling over and took the mince pies and took me by the elbow and sat me at the table. Jane's still back indoors, wondering where I am, and I tucked into like half a Christmas dinner.
Oh, brilliant! Well, you can't turn it down.
Of course not.
But then when you get back and it's time for Christmas, I'm not really.
You know what?
I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Already had a dinner. Yeah, because that's interesting you say that. I mean,
It's Christmas Eve is the main dinner, isn't it? It's seafood and stuff, isn't it? Which is
that's right, and it's not a roast dinner either. So it's usually a seafood.
Yeah, seafood. Yeah.
And my brother has a French wife, French daughter. So typically on Christmas Eve in France, they come to ours. Well, my mum's, I go as well. And on Christmas Eve, we have seafood stuff. But also, when I did go to the French house, like as a aperitif, a little bit of before dinner activity, it's weird. The men, this might just be rude to me, by the way, but the men of the family all went into the kitchen.
Yeah, of course.
But all the women went into the lounge, and the men started opening oysters. And so all the blokes were in the kitchen with wine and oysters.
Yes.
And all the women were in the dining room with salmon, smoked salmon and trout. And I was like, I don't like oysters. I'm not going to just stand in the kitchen. So they're looking at me thinking, why is he in there?
Every few years to think, I'm bound to like them now because your taste change, isn't they? And they're still like big lump of salty stuff, aren't they?
And so I'm sat, but the thing is, I'm now sat with all the women around the table, and I'm the only bloke, and they're all looking at me because why aren't you in there eating oysters? Yeah. And I'm not going to go and eat oysters just for the sake of it when they've got lovely smoked salmon. But on reflection, maybe I should have gone in there and just had a beer and or some wine and just avoided the oysters. But the salmon looked really nice.
It's a learning experience for you.
Of course it is, and I don't think they minded at all, obviously. But it was really good to experience that. And I've found the French here very welcoming as well. I haven't really had any super bad encounters. I've had a few grumpy old men shout at me because just various reasons, but nothing serious. And
I've only really had one encounter. I was flying a drone over a field of sunflowers.
Right.
So up in Normandy, and I made sure not to fly over the farm, just the field. And this old fella came out screaming and shouting at me.
Yeah.
And so I flew the drone back, and he wanted to snatch it out of my hand and
no way.
Yeah. But
there are strict laws for drones in France, I guess. But, there are some things that there's a different attitude, and it's a very laissez-faire, which is obviously French anyway. attitude, and you could pretty much get away, and nothing's really a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So there are specific laws. For example, cutting grass on a Sunday, for example, it's a big no. Like if you've got close neighbours, they don't like it, and it's in some communes, it's actually one of the rules. So you don't cut on a Sunday.
Yeah, and you don't use like loud power tools outside or anything on a Sunday. I think that's like a general rule across most of rural France, isn't it? That you just Sunday is a day of rest.
Yeah, I agree, and although not everyone, French included, actually abides by it. I mean, it's actually written here in the village I live in. It's pretty small, but big enough to have a mairie of its own, but small enough not to be a town. And it's actually written that there is no specific law at the weekend, but every time they send out a newsletter, they say we trust that you'll not do it on a Sunday. So it's an unwritten rule, but in some communes, like just down the road, bigger town, it's written down. It's just not.
I think you have to remember that whilst it how can I put it? It's still quite a traditional way of life, isn't it? Because as an example, there's a church in the local village, because I live just on the outskirts of a village in a small hamlet of 6 houses, but it comes under the auspices of the mayor of the local village. But there's as I say, there is a church in the village, and at 12 o'clock lunchtime, the bells go off, and at 7 o'clock in the evening, the bells go off.
Yeah.
So that would be traditionally to let the people working in the fields know that it's lunchtime, and 7 p.m. to let them know that the day's finished.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's worth noting that if you are considering moving to France, especially rural France, it is proper countryside. So you're going to get church bells, you're going to get mud on the road, you're going to get cows and horses and farmers. And also, I think this weekend was the last day that you get the chasse as well.
Yep.
The hunt.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't interest me at all, but some people like to join the hunt, and they are actually quite accepting for expats to join because it sees them as integrated in the community. So if hunting and that sort of stuff is your bag, so to speak, then you can join the chasse, and they're quite helpful.
Well, where I lived in Normandy, the chasse was very active, and they used to come right past our gate. I think on one of my videos actually, I even filmed the dogs in our garden because they use a pack of dogs to chase any like wild boar or whatever out of the forest or the fields, so they can take a pop at them. I was just going to say that, but here, because it's so open here, I've not actually seen the chasse here, so there's no large amounts of woodland that close that the chasse would bother here.
Yeah, I see them all every weekend. Brittany's big hunting places, and we're not talking about fox hunting with loads of horses. No. So the chasse do hunt deer in seasons. They also hunt wild boar. Now they do that because wild boars are massive.
They are.
And they cause serious issues.
It's the size of a VW Beetle, I'm telling you. It's enormous. It's ran across the road from like forest to forest. There was a road going through the forest, and it ran across probably 100 yards in front of us, or 100 metres in front of us. And it was enormous.
Yeah. It's not something I'm interested in. I'm too much of an animal lover for that. But it's worth knowing that it does exist if you like hunting. But also, I don't go out walking my dog if the chasse is there. No. Just on the off chance the dog gets off.
People get killed every year.
You know, it's just not worth the hassle. Anyway, so there's that to contend with. There's also farmers, French farmers. Now, I know you actually get on really well with your farmers, don't you? Your neighbours and
Yes, in a word, yeah. There's two. It's really interesting actually because there's two types of farmer here. There's the gentleman farmer, who's the chap down the road, quite relaxed and do anything to help. Smash it. He used to be the mayor here actually, so he's an handy fella to know. So there's that type, the gentleman farmer, and there's the businessman farmer, who's the guy that owns all the cows in this area. And I saw him taking a load of manure to the field over the back there, and I thought that'd be handy for me vegetable patch. So when he came round with his massive tractor, a massive trailer, I said to him, "Would you mind if I had two of those trailers into my field?"
yeah,
went, yeah, of course. So he took the two trailers full of manure and dropped them, and I gave him a bottle of wine and a few eggs in it, and I thought, well, that's it, done. And about 3 weeks later, he was driving past, he saw me, he got out of his tractor and came up and he went, "You do know that wasn't free, didn't you?" I said, "No, I didn't realise." He went, "Well, it's not." And he went to great pains to show me the current market price of a trailer of 2 tons of manure. And of course, I wouldn't have got the money straight away and paid him. But yeah, so that just illustrates the difference between the gentleman farmers and the businessman farmers.
Yeah.
No, that's it. So yeah.
Yeah. So where I am, my actual house is surrounded on. It's a triangle. One side is the road, and then the other two sides are owned by the farmer who lives behind, with the farmhouse, and it was a cattle farm. But yeah, I came home one day and all the fence, it was really old and rickety, but it was an old barbed wire fence surrounding my property, which was mine, gone, completely gone.
Yeah.
And when I looked on the cameras, I saw that he just got his tractor and just pulled it all of it out, put it in a pile in the field and set fire to it. Well, so I came back and I was just wondering, where did my fence go? Who's going to see the fence?
Decision, didn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, this was a really old fence, and I was going to replace it anyway. But if you're offended by stuff like that, then you know the countryside might not be for you, because land in France is very strangely, well, for a British person, it's the parcel system where you've got different parcels of land. There are properties, I'll go back to properties again, whereas the house and the garden is opposite it on the other side of the road. I mean, you could own 95% of your land that your house is sat on, but that 5% is owned by Mary down the road who's had it since 1952. It's a very, very strange situation, worth looking into if you're considering buying a house. Just make sure who's got access to your land as well, or who owns bits of it, because it's not always a straightforward.
I looked at a property, or we looked at a property, I should say. I mean, it's a great house, fair bit of land, and a great big workshop and garage in like the same sort of barn outbuilding. And I said, "That's nice, somewhere to put the car." And the agent, "Well, actually, you don't own the garage. Someone else owns the garage, and they'll have 24-hour access to their garage." I said, "Yeah, but it'll be on my land." I went, "Yeah, and?"
Yeah, they accept that as well. That's just how it's done here. So try, if you can, to get something where everything's clearly defined. If there's any wiggle room whatsoever, I'd walk away on that alone. It can cause so many problems, not necessarily straight away. I'll give you a really good example. Where my mum lives, she owns all her land except one corner of it, and it is about 2% of the garden, and the previous owner nicked that off the neighbour. Also, the driveway goes out onto what looks like communal land, but in fact is owned by the neighbour, so he actually owns the driveway at the back. So it's been used for years, but, you know, it's not our land, it's his. And, you know, he can get, if you get the wrong kind of neighbour, that can cause major problems. So that all needs to be squared away before you even buy a house.
I was a member of a Facebook group until it got too depressing.
Let me guess. Strictly legal.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. And probably 50% of the disputes on there are land disputes or boundary disputes.
Yeah. Well, that's just the way it goes.
Well, I think we were talking about this before. There's a whole industry around. Is it a Geomet? That's it. Yeah. Whole industry.
I've had some experience with these chaps, and they take their job very, very seriously. So the farmer who you mentioned before, he's selling the field immediately behind me to his son, or giving it or something like that. And when you look on the plan, it's on half of the land is one parcel and half is the other, but right against my land. So I get a letter through the post, no prior contact, saying, right, you've got to provide me with all this information under the law. There's no getting out of it. You've got to do it. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to measure exactly where your land is, and I'm going to put these orange puddles. I'm sure you've seen them around.
I wonder what they were, to be honest, for ages.
Yeah. So that's what they are. They put these little squares.
Have you seen the white porcelain markers as well? Like white porcelain markers. I don't know whether they're the same thing, but they use before the plastic panels.
Right. So so there's a long spike, and it's really long. Can't fit it on the screen anyway. It's a really long spike with a marker on the top, and then inside the top, those paddles you see just flop in, so to give you an indication of where they are. So if there's any doubt about where your land is, you can call one of these companies, and for an exorbitant amount of money, they'll come out and they'll measure down to the centimetre where your land is. But it's not a cheap exercise. But the guy, when he came out, I mean, I could only describe him as a clipboard man. He was that kind of person, exactly how you want that kind of job. But he did it right. It didn't cost me anything because I'm not the one doing it. But it's interesting to see where the actual limit of your land is compared to what you've been using. So I actually had about probably 200 mil extra land all the way around, because the farmer put the original fencing back in the 50s or 60s towards my house a bit to nick a bit of land. And you think, well, that's only 200 mil or whatever. But when you times up by the length and width of the land, it's actually quite a lot.
So you're getting into the French way of thinking, aren't you? Yeah, but 200 mil.
So, that's, I suppose we've probably done land now to death. Properties and land. It's crazy. But
and actually go to see your Marie as well. He'll have a list of who owns names and addresses of who owns which. It's called the cadastral, isn't it?
That's it.
And each block of land will have a number, and you can ask the Marie for the name and address of who owns.
That's right. Yeah, just in case there's any problem. You can actually, there's a site, Geoportail. You can look at all the plans and stuff online, and
it's very good.
Get the numbers off that. Yeah. We might put a link to that in the description. I think it's a
good idea. Geoportail is brilliant, actually, especially if you look at the property.
If you're going to buy a property.
I know if you're looking at properties with Beauvillage, you can sign up and sign a bit of paper, and they will then give you the address. I think we'll talk about the whole estate agent.
Buying the house. Yeah, we could do that later. This is more general.
You can then look at the property on Geoportail, and it will give you masses of information. We've even got maps going back to the 1800s that you can overlay. It's just amazing website.
Yeah, really, really useful tool. And it shows you also, I think, you can see whether it's on a floodplain or not, which, especially now, looking out the window, I'm glad we've checked that as well, because it is pretty bad. Yeah, so...
Flooded, we're in trouble because I'm at the top of a valley, so...
yeah, you're all right, yeah. So we've probably done property and the countryside and that sort of stuff, but what are the major differences have you found? I think one for me is, I know I mentioned this before, and it's something I only realised when I went back to England, petrol stations.
Yeah. So petrol stations, well, there aren't any. They're very few and far between, aren't they? They're the majority.
An actual petrol station with some geezer in it taking the money.
That's it.
You'll only find it on the auto route, because there's a little shop there. But just everywhere else, everything is automatic. So you can roll up at any time of the day and get your fuel or whatever. Yeah. No problems. And they tend to be out of the way like a...
The majority of petrol stations are in supermarkets.
Yes, that's right. Except for the auto routes or big roads. And it's all associated with the supermarkets. And they do quite good deals on fuel as well, like in England if you get their loyalty cards and all that. But did you know it's a law that you're supposed to be able to pay for everything in cash?
I didn't know that. No, because they do have machines there, don't they, where you can go and put your cash in and it'll give you a little printout. I've not done it myself, but I've seen it there.
Yeah, so you can either somewhere you go in the shop first, you can prepay for it, and they give you a little thingy, and you go to the pump, and then they'll put it in. Yeah. Or some have automatic machines, like you say, you put the cash equivalent of what you want in, €20 worth. They give you a QR code, you print it out, you go to the pump, scan the QR code, it will do you the 20 litres because you prepaid for it. But it's the same for all other shops as well. So they
shops are really different as well in that they're only allowed to sell specific things, aren't they? So you can't buy cigarettes in a supermarket.
Or paracetamol, ibuprofen, Anodin, nothing like that.
Yeah, so it's almost like it's unionised, isn't it? You know,
I think
only buy certain things at certain places.
Same with I think, but it used to be similar with bread. But there's some laws around bread as well. Like you've got to be, it's a legal right for everyone to have access to fresh bread. So I think you'll have these depots, which means basically a point where you can go and get bread. Sometimes it's an automatic machine, so you can put money in and get your baguettes, like an ATM baguettes. Yeah. Or sometimes it's inside a post office or library or somewhere like that, but they will have somewhere close to you can walk to where you can get bread.
I think I read, I think it's 80% of French law is Napoleonic.
That would make sense, yeah. I think most of the British law is Victorian, isn't it? 1800s and that. Well, been modified since, but the original laws.
But and it's a little bit different down here, but certainly up in Normandy where we was, shops, shut for lunch. Well,
oh my God,
right, we had a convenience store in our local village, or town village, convenience store called Wheat a Week, which is 8 till 8. Apart from the 2 hours it shut for lunch and Sunday when it didn't open at all. Big convenience store.
I can actually deal with it. Most big supermarkets now probably be open Sunday mornings.
Yeah. Yes.
But I can deal with that now. The thing I find really difficult is the Monday closing.
Yeah.
That really gets
because they're open Saturday and or Sunday, they shut a day in the week, don't they?
In fact, I could actually
I shut on Monday.
I can relate to it today. So
Yeah.
I took the trailer to pick up a ton of gravel for some concrete, and I drove all the way to the town, went up to the gates, it's shut. I should have checked beforehand, but it's Monday. I mean, you think start of the working week, the places that sell material for building works would be open, wouldn't you? But no. And I've been here since 2019 permanently. I should really know that. But you just don't because it's different. Used to it in the UK, you can just 7 days a week. You can go to Screwfix or B&Q or wherever, and you can buy anything you want really anytime. Speaking of buying stuff, takeaways and that, unless you live in a town.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, none of your Deliveroo or any of that. There's none of that.
Likewise, no, unless it's a big town, there's no Ubers around here, no any of those kind of things. Just extremely expensive taxis that you've got to pre-book.
I think the closest facility like that is where you can do your online shopping, and then you can go to the supermarket and they'll just load it into your car.
That's and collect type thing.
Yeah, that's about the closest they've got to the 21st century, really.
Yeah. Well, you just think of the size of the place. To make the delivery profitable, and get there when it's warm. I mean, can you imagine? You have to do 90 kilometers to get there and back.
Yeah,
you can only do deliveries night.
So, speaking of cheeseburgers, McDonald's don't sell milkshakes.
Oh, and they also don't do sausage and egg McMuffin.
They don't do breakfast. Do they do? I don't think they do breakfast, do they?
So they got a McCafe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So you can go in and get a croissant and coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
They do, but they open real late. Like they don't open at 0500 for all the workers or anything like that. It's a completely different scenario. But you can buy beer.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. I mean, first time I went to McDonald's here, I'm scrolling through the screen like, I want a strawberry milkshake.
Yeah.
What?
I'll have to have a Heineken instead.
Yeah. Well, these are the sacrifices we have to make for this lifestyle.
That's it. So we pretty much covered shops and shops. That lunchtime closing in shops as well. So I've been in a fairly decent sized DIY store, and it gets to 5 to 12, and the staff will come and seek you out. And right,
put you out. Yeah.
Get out. I don't care. They don't even care if you buy anything or not. No. So then they'll shop between 12 and 2.
Yeah.
So dealing with that lunchtime closure as well is really difficult.
It's just planning, isn't it? You just got to plan it and just accept it.
Yeah, you've got to accept it, that's for sure. But there's been times when you've been doing jobs and you need that particular fitting, and you know that the shop down the road's got it, or you can go 50 kilometres to the big supermarket, and you just think, if that was just open at lunchtime, I could just go.
You realise that at about 20 to 12, didn't you?
Yeah. Will I make it? Will I not? No, I've got to wait till 2. Yeah. So that is.
I'll have to go to McDonald's and drink beer instead.
Yeah, that's it. What about cost of that sort of stuff in France? How does that compare?
The cost of living. Well, there's things that are really cheap, things that are expensive. The majority of stuff is relatively expensive. Beef. When you think of how many cows there are around here, you would think beef will be cheap, but it's not.
Beef is expensive.
Yeah. Wine's ridiculously cheap. You can get a great bottle of wine for €2.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know how to put it on the shelves for that much. The bottle's got to be worth €1, hasn't it? So.
I think it's a conspiracy that the French export all the rubbish wine and keep all the good stuff for themselves.
I think.
Yeah. Up in Normandy, there was a cider farm not far from us, and they would do a litre of cider in a bottle with a cork on it, and like the full Monty, for €2.
Oh yeah.
And surely the bottle and the cork must have cost 50 cents, surely.
Sure.
And but it was
It.
really, really nice, really nice.
Yeah, so most of the normal food is expensive, but then I was back in the UK, and the price has definitely gone back. I go back at least once a month, and the prices have definitely gone up. But more importantly, the size of everything is reduced.
Yeah.
Massively. Like, I know we used to joke about it, but the Mars bars are literally like fun-size ones now, and they're still a bit more expensive.
Yeah.
I think they call it shrinkflation, don't they? I mean, yeah. So it swings and roundabouts. But what I have found is a top tip: go to Aldi and Lidl in France. They are by far the cheapest.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at Aldi today just picking stuff up, and it was, if you look around, something's go on offer and you don't notice it, and then a whole box of chicken legs, it's like €5.99, €5.99.
Yeah, that's cheap as chips, isn't it?
But it's not always there. So you just got to pop in once a week and just see what they've got, buy what they've got. Because everything is mostly seasonal as well, isn't it? So if you go to your local supermarket.
Yeah, certainly in the vegetable, like fruit and veg area, it's really seasonal. So you can't go in there going, I want this, this and this. You need to go there and go, okay, what's here?
Yeah. And it's mainly around things that, I wouldn't say tropical, but it's things they have to import from long distances during the winter, which they could grow in the summer here. You find just don't exist because strawberries and raspberries, things like that, they're either extremely expensive or they just don't have them.
I think it's a different culture as well, in that people shop 2 or 3 times a week, rather than back in the UK. Certainly, we'd go shopping probably once a fortnight, or once a week maybe, sometimes once a fortnight, but stock up, fill the freezer up. Whereas people tend to shop every 2 or 3 days here and get fresh stuff.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful which shops you go to. And by that I mean, like, if you were back in the UK, we have Tesco's, Marks and Spencer's, Waitrose, Asda, all that. And if you want to pay top whack, you go to Marks and Spencer's or Waitrose. But if you want to pay less, you maybe go Tesco's or Asda, wouldn't you, and buy their own stuff. But I find that when you come over here, you just think all supermarkets are the same, but they're not. I mean, for example, Leclerc is much cheaper than going to the local Super U.
Yeah, Super U is really expensive, yeah.
But the Super U ones I find have more local produce, especially from the area, and it is really good stuff. So that would be the equivalent of going to maybe Asda and Waitrose.
Yeah.
But if the local shop to you happens to be just that, then you can spend a lot more, or you're going to have to travel and find somewhere. Yeah. We're quite lucky. Lidl and Aldi have opened up quite recently, and it's similar products and similar stuff all over the country, similar prices to the UK. So if you're near one, top tip, go to Aldi and Lidl. Really good value.
Good call.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else do you want to? What else can we shoehorn in there?
So this has been quite a varied and general discussion about expats in France and our life experiences here. In future episodes, we're going to really drill into the details of the expat experience in France. If you've got any suggestions, feel free, pop it in the comments, and we'll look at that. We've got a big list of stuff to cover, but we can always add to it. So, up to you, Andy. What do you want to say?
That's it, really. This is the first episode, just to give you an idea of what things are going to be like. So you can listen to this, and you don't have to watch us. So you can put it on while you're doing something else, which is always handy. yeah, anything you want us to, or ask us any questions about moving to or living in France, yeah, just pop it in the comments. Also, don't forget to go to our other channels, which are AJ in France and French Countryside Life. And we can maybe answer some more questions on here that you might see in the other videos.
Right, so if you like, give the video a thumbs up. That'll be great, that'll help. And press the notification bell so that you know when there's new content. Share it on social media. I'm sure people will be interested in seeing this. And don't forget to subscribe. Most important. Yeah. It doesn't cost you anything. So press the subscribe button. And goodbye from me.
That's goodbye from me.